You know, one would think that after Star Wars, the MCU, the DCEU, Harry Potter, the Hunger Games, all of these big franchises that are not that good, I would have learned my lesson to not watch more franchises, especially not ones with more than 5 films. Unfortunately, I have not learned my lesson because today we're talking about every single DC animated movie universe movie, which is a very, very convoluted title. We're going to be going through all 16 of these films and ranking them from worst to best. I am including the Constantine City of Demons movie because, from everything I've seen, it fits into the continuity, even if it was released on the CW Seed. I do consider it part of it because it does fit in with the continuity pretty well, especially after Justice League Dark. So these films are the ones that started with the Flashpoint Paradox and ended with Justice League Dark Apocalypse War, which released this month. I decided to watch them all because I wanted to watch Apocalypse War, but I wanted to have all of the prior knowledge of the universe before Apocalypse War. So coming in at number 16, at the very bottom, we have Batman Bad Blood. So this entire franchise has gotten shit from my friends and people I talk to, and I've seen a lot of people dislike this franchise. But you know, it started decently enough until I got to Batman Bad Blood, and nothing about this movie works. It is such a broken film, from the script to the ideas to the animation. Everything about this just doesn't work. It's just so stupid. The plot of the movie tries to be like a battle for the cowl type thing, where Bruce is gone and all of the other like people who work with him have to like team up to get him back. But they throw in a clone of Damien, and Talia's just evil out of nowhere. And it's like 1 hour and 12 minutes, but it's like an entire 3 hour film packed into one. The only good thing about it is Alfred has a gun during it. It's just a mess, dude. Nothing about this movie makes sense or needed to happen. And I really, it's the only one that I walked away from actually angry about because of how nothingness it exists. It's the end of a trilogy of 2 other Batman films, and it just completely falls apart for me. Coming in at number 15, we have Justice League Throne of Atlantis. This is a film that I saw when it came out, and I actually own the trade paperback that it was based off of on my shelf right next to me. I like this story in the comics. I remember liking this movie as a kid. I don't like this movie now. I don't even know if I like the comic story anymore. There's just so much about this film that's just boring. I feel like this is the most boring one, but it's not even so bad that it's just boring. It's just so bland and flavorless. This is basically like a worse version of the live action Aquaman film, but now the Justice League are just in it. And that would be cool, but the Justice League kind of just sit around and just check systems all day long and monitor the shit at Atlantis without doing anything. See, I don't know. There's not really much to say about it. It's just a bad movie. The animation is solid though. Aquaman himself is good. And I think that there's some cool moments, but just none of the rest of the Justice League have anything to do here. They just waste time. Both of the villains suck. The plot is, again, just what they did in the Aquaman movie, except they did it better there. And so as a whole, I'm just not a fan of Justice League Throne of Atlantis. Next up, coming at number 14, we have Batman vs. Robin. Another Batman movie. A lot of these are actually at the bottom. Batman vs. Robin is a movie that I kind of wrestled with if I liked it or not, and I think I've come up with the conclusion that I don't not like it, but I don't like it either. I just feel like this film is just kind of there. Damien's cool in it still. I like him from Son of Batman. He's got some interesting stuff here. Bruce is kind of interesting too. The Dollmaker opening could have been a better movie, and I would have actually loved to see that. The final battle was also pretty entertaining, and I did like it. The biggest problem with this movie, however, is that it just never goes beyond surface level ideas. You have Damien, who's mad that his dad won't let him kill, and then you have Bruce, who's mad that Damien won't listen to him. And both of these are decent ideas on surface, but they really did need to be developed more because they just come across like bad drama, and it never really becomes as interesting as it could be. The Court of Owls are just stupid in this movie. They're just randomly a cult of villains, and I don't really understand what they're doing or why they want Damien, because it's never really explained. And Talon as a character sucks. They did some interesting stuff with him, giving him a bond with Damien and making him feel like a similar character to Damien, but then as soon as you think that they were about to get like a redemption arc, Talon just becomes a generic bad guy, and it's really stupid to see, and it kind of threw off the ending of the film for me, because this could have been a decent enough time, but the ending really didn't work. Coming in at number 13, I think we have Batman Hush. This movie has a lot of negativity surrounding it, and a lot of people hate it. I don't hate it. I actually liked it more than Batman vs. Robin, but it's also just got a lot of issues with it. So I think the biggest issue with it is how it treats the Hush character and how it treats just him being a villain in the film in the first place. I haven't read the Hush storyline, but from what I figured out, Riddler isn't Hush. Tommy Elliott is, but Riddler just works with Hush, which is a cool enough idea, and it would have been cool here too, but they just decide to turn the Riddler into Hush exactly, and it just felt really stupid. The movie also doesn't give nearly enough time for Hush to actually be at the forefront, and it just feels like a villain who's just not there most of the time. He's rounding up all these villains, but the movie just kind of keeps throwing you at stuff. Like, there's a literal big subplot in Metropolis with a mind-controlled Superman that didn't need to be in this movie, that needed more time to focus on the villain of Hush. There's a bunch of relationship stuff with Bruce and Selina that I do like, but again, that also takes away from the stuff with Hush. I think this would have been a better film if it was just Batman and Catwoman, like, title it that, and have Batman and Catwoman fight against Batman's Rogues Gallery. That would have been far more interesting than what we got here, which was just a confusing mess with a stupid reveal of Riddler being Hush. I like a lot of the Bruce and Selina relationship, but again, that falls out at the end too in a stupid way. I just don't know. I don't think this film is awful, but I do think that it's a pretty mediocre animated film. Coming in at number 12, we have Wonder Woman Bloodlines. So this is the first film in this animated universe to not use the same art style, and while that's cool, we get what is without a doubt the most inoffensively fine film in the entire franchise. This movie has nothing going on. I'm not even going to talk about it for too long. The only reason that this is above both Batman vs. Robin and Hush is because the animation style is nice, and there's some genuinely dope moments, and the writing isn't nearly as messy or as convoluted as those. But like the rest of the film's it's just a standard Wonder Woman movie. It's too crowded. It's a safe time with no identity, and it's just there. It's a Wonder Woman movie for like an hour and 22 minutes. You can watch it. It's fine. But otherwise, it's just an okay film that I'll never think about again. Like, I'm having trouble remembering stuff about it right now. So, yay, I guess. Now we have to talk about Justice League War. At number 11. Well, the best thing I can say about Justice League War is it's better than the live-action movie. The worst thing I can say about it is that it gets a bunch of characters completely wrong. The climax goes on for way too long, and Darkseid is an awful villain. But again, on the flip side, Barry is a fun character, Bruce is really fun, and this Hal Jordan is the best part about it. The three of them together is my literal crack, and the movie is a really fun time. But at the same time, as fun as it is a really hollow superhero film. I think it's got some great moments, but at the same time, it just never really goes above and beyond to become anything better than those great moments that it does have. It's just a fun, fluffy superhero film that, you know, works better than the live action film, but the more I thought about it, the less I liked it, and the more I thought about this universe doing things better than it. It's definitely better than Wonder Woman Bloodlines, but it's just nothing spectacular, and other films in the universe do things better, but it does have some great Justice League action and some great stuff with the Justice League characters. So next up, at number 10, we have Justice League versus Teen Titans. This is a pretty good animated movie here. It's not too much better than Justice League War, but I feel like it has a little bit more things going on than Justice League War to where it works a bit better. The Titans characters are really fun here, and I enjoy that a lot. I think the movie is just fun to watch, and again, has more stuff going on with actual character work that's kind of interesting. Raven's a fun character. Trigon's cool. Damian's cool. The Justice League, while kind of having the same issues that they do in Throne of Atlantis, are actually utilized okay here, but it's still a really fun enough time. There's some great animation. There's some great character moments. Just a good Teen Titans movie. This is a Damian Wayne safe zone, We do not hate Damian Wayne in this establishment. If you have anything negative to say about Damian Wayne, leave it at the door, because we don't tolerate that here. Thank you. Now let's go ahead and move on and talk about Son of Batman, the next movie to talk about. This one I actually really like. We're starting to move into the films that I have a great time watching, and this is definitely one of them. I love the Bruce and Damian dynamic. I think it's hilarious to see someone like Damian just be a smartass and a brat to Bruce, who is just not taking it. Alfred is the same way. It's just so much fun. I love the Dick and Damian dynamic. Damian himself is just a really funny character, and I think it works because he is such a small person, yet he is talking a load of shit, to where it's just very fun to see his character play out. The animation's fun. I love a lot of the action scenes, and I just think the plot of the movie is really entertaining. Seeing Damian and Bruce fight against someone who wants to, take the League of Assassins. It does have a lot of issues, though. I think the pacing is a little meh. Slade is a pretty garbage villain, and the League of Assassins stuff isn't as interesting as it could have been. But still, what this movie does very well is that it's just a fun film, and it just works very well for what it's trying to do. And so, in that regard, I enjoy it. I don't get the hate for it. I don't get that it's a bad time. I think it's a pretty enjoyable time. While not amazing, it just does enough good to where I'm like, yeah, this was fun. Up next at number 8 is the Justice League Dark movie. I think this is a good movie. So, a little backstory again. This is another one that I had seen a while ago. I saw this with my dad, and I really loved it when it came out. So much so that I literally bought a Blu-ray copy of it. I don't love it as much now, but it's still really fun and a really enjoyable time. There's some really fun characters. I think the visuals are great, and I love this side of the DC universe, so anything that really dives into it's going to be fun for me. Constantine was really great. There's such a really solid voice cast. I think the biggest issues with it fall into the realm of it just, again, being more fluff than anything truly interesting. There's also a villain switch, which just feels meh and makes the fight against Felix Faust feel like more of a long, drawn-out filler segment than anything that, meaningful. And then they fight Dr. Destiny at the end, who comes out of nowhere in an extremely long climax that I just don't care about. But everything else is fun. And again, I just really like Constantine. I really like seeing Batman bounce off of these characters. At times it does feel like he's a little forced in, but it's still an interesting dynamic, and I would probably be down to see more Justice League Dark movies if they were to ever make them in the new universe after Apocalypse War. Coming in at number 7, we have Justice League The Flashpoint Paradox. This is a really fun time. I do have some major issues with the Flashpoint storyline as a whole. I hate that it's just an excuse to do edgy redesigns and recreations of characters that we know and love. I think the fact that it barely focuses on Barry's actual relationship with his mother is disgusting, and I just feel like it never really did anything interesting other than just being an Elseworld story that really should have been tied to something else if they weren't going to focus on Barry. That being said, this movie focuses on Barry a little bit more than the comic, but not as much as the TV show's version, which is my personal favorite interpretation of the comic. So it's just there. There's some great scenes and some great action scenes, but the animation is really rough here. I enjoy Batman and I like Barry. Thawne is amazing here, really cool. And the story here, again, has a greater focus on Barry, which is dope. I just still feel like it could have used more of that, and it still has all of the same issues I have with the Flashpoint universe. It's still an edgy mess, and the pacing of this film in particular is really wonky in the middle, but the first, third and the last third are very enjoyable, very fun movies, and I really do enjoy it. This is easily the most rewatchable of them all, I think, and it does do some interesting stuff. And again, the Thawne and Barry dynamic is really fun here. He's my favorite DC supervillain, so it was really cool to see him in this movie with Barry, and it was a cool Flashpoint adaptation. Not as good as the CW's version, but not as bad as the comic version to me. So coming in at number 6, I think it is now, we have Reign of the Superman, the second part to The Death of Superman. And yeah, this is pretty fun. The Superman stuff in this movie is really cool. Lois and Lex get some great moments in it. There's a whole bunch of Superman stuff in it that I really liked. I love all of the multiple Supermen. I love seeing how they all work together. I like the mystery surrounding them and how eventually throughout the film, you start to uncover what's going on and who's who, and it's a really exciting thing to see. And I also think that the movie just in general is really fun. I love when they wake Superman back up and they all go to fight against Cyborg Superman. There are a lot of issues with it, though, sadly. that kind of hold it back. I feel like a lot of character stuff isn't as good as it could be. Darkseid is a pretty bad villain in the movie. Hank is a very bad villain. The Cyborg Superman stuff is just not good, unfortunately. And I just think the movie's a little bit too cluttered. There's so much going on at once, and while I do love a lot about the film, it just kind of feels too shoved together. I really would have preferred a more down-to-earth movie about Superman returning and maybe the world without Superman. Maybe even make it a trilogy and have a whole movie without Superman, and then have the third one be the return of Superman. But otherwise, yeah, this is still a really, really good one, and one of my favorites. It just has a lot of flaws that unfortunately bring it down a tad when I think about it critically. Next up, we have Suicide Squad: Hell to Pay. This one's really fun. So I was a little worried about going into this one because I hate the 2016 Suicide Squad movie, so I really didn't know how I was going to feel about this, but this was actually really, really good. I really loved this movie. There's a really great cast of characters in it. I think the action was really solid. The R rating was really fun. I was worried they were going to go too edgy with a lot of the blood and deaths and swearing, but it was actually pretty conservative from what I expected, and it fit it well because it is a Suicide Squad movie, so I understand why they would go this route. And yeah, I really did enjoy the R rating, and the bombastic action scenes were really fun. Thawne in this movie is amazing. Bronze Tiger and Deadshot was great. I love that. A lot of this movie is just fun, and the story's awesome, and I loved having Thawne there. Just a really, really fun movie. I think my only negatives have got to be Harley Quinn was a little annoying. The film is kind of jumping all over the place, and the animation's actually noticeably bad in this one. A lot of the time it just looks really cheap and kind of thrown together. But as a whole, this is a really, really fun one and one of my favorites easily. So I definitely recommend this one. So coming in at number 4, and number 4 and 3 could easily be switched for me because I think about them about the same way. But coming in at number 4, we have Justice League Dark Apocalypse War. This is the movie that I watched all these for, and I'm really happy that it is this high on the list. Otherwise, everything would have been for naught, and I would have wasted so much time. But yeah, I really, really enjoy this film. I think it's got some great moments. It's got some amazing emotional things in it too. Things that I didn't expect and things that probably hit harder because I watched it after all of these. But yeah, there's some really great emotional scenes. The action scenes are great. There's wonderful character arcs. And yeah, the animation's really solid, and I love the voice acting. There's just so much fun stuff in this movie. I love the Trigon possessing Superman. Constantine is, again, one of my favorite characters. He's so good here. Etrigan was fun. And I just think the dire feeling of the film and seeing all these characters together was really great. This film is basically if you took Infinity War and Endgame and mashed them together into an hour and 30 minutes. And I know that sounds awful, and it could have been, but I honestly really had a great time. The first 30 minutes are actually pretty bad, and I think some characters are poorly handled, as well as the ending being a bit of a cop-out. But at the same time, everything still works so well to where I don't have any noticeable big issues with it other than the first 30 minutes again being bad. So moving on to number 3, which again could easily be switched around to be number 4 if I thought about it a little bit harder. We have Teen Titans: The Judas Contract. So this film builds on everything that I really, really enjoyed about Teen Titans versus Justice League in a great way. It's really, really good. It's probably, honestly, it's not the best, it was when I watched it, but it's one of the best and actually most well-written films in this universe, because as much as I like some of the previous films like Suicide Squad, and even Justice League Dark and Reign of the Superman, a lot of those have major flaws in the writing, even Apocalypse War. So it was nice to see this film actually have some great, genuinely great writing. There's some great character work. Slade was actually cool in here. They redeemed him after Son of Batman. Damian is literally one of my favorite characters. Between this and Apocalypse War, I love him a lot. And the movie just has an actual plot. It's not just jump to action scene to action scene to action scene. The plot drives the action scenes rather than the action scenes driving the plot. So yeah, it's a really, really great film. I think as for cons, some of the subplots are a little dumb, and the Kevin Smith cameo is stupid. But like at the end of the day, this is a really, really great film, and I had a lot of fun watching it. It's got some emotional moments. It's got some great character work. So yeah, this is probably the second best well-written film in the series. It's like just really strong. Coming in at number 2, if you know me, you probably know what this will be if you know what I like. It's Constantine: City of Demons. Now again, this film might not be counted as a DC AMU film, and if you don't want to count it, that's fine. I personally wanted to count it, and I'm really glad I do, because man, I love this. I love this movie so much. Constantine's amazing in it. Matt Ryan is still wonderful as the character. I really like Chas and Constantine's dynamic. It's so much fun. I think that the villains are really fun and really, really interesting to watch. And the visuals are really good, especially in the second half. And there's just such an amazing and emotional ending. I really do like it. This was apparently a bunch of mini-sodes combined into 30 minutes, and then another 30 minutes was added to finish it off. But I can't really tell. It feels like a singular movie. It never really feels choppy or paced poorly. But you can tell the animation style is met at the start, and the animation's really kind of eh. But then it gets a lot better in the second half, and I think that that's one of my only problems is it's a little bit uneven with the animation. I also think that there's some poor writing in here. It's not as well written as my number 3 pick and my number 1 pick, and honestly, I could see Judas Contract going above this if I were to think about it a bit more, but honestly, just all of the fun Constantine moments here are so exciting. I just love this character in this side of the DC universe, and this is easily the most fun of them for me. It's not the best or my favorite, and I'll talk about that next, of course, but this is easily the most fun and enjoyable movie of the series for me, and one that I could rewatch countless times. Just such a great time, and I absolutely recommend it. I don't think it gets enough love. And now, coming in at the very, very top, number 1, we have The Death of Superman. What a fantastic animated superhero film. This film has so much right about it that I'm so happy to talk about this one. I was worried going into this because I didn't know how I was going to feel about another Death of Superman story, but wow, this was great. They went into this film with this version of Clark having so little character, but in the span of this movie, they give him so much character to where his death actually made me sad. There's so many emotional moments here that work very well. The League is actually handled well for once. The action scenes are so fantastic. There's a great Flash versus Doomsday fight that I just love, and the death of Clark himself was so good. So much about this film works. There's so many callbacks to the start of it. So many characters that you might think are useless at the time that actually are important to seeing how things pan out with Clark. It's just so good. I just love this movie. I want to rewatch it again as soon as possible. It was really fun. If I was going to talk about some negatives in it, I would probably say the animation, again, is kind of bad at times, and I'm still not a huge fan of this art style. And the ending, I think, kind of went on a little too long. There was a lot of setup for Reign of the Superman that I feel like could have just been saved for Reign. But otherwise, that doesn't take away from the fact that this is a fantastic animated superhero film and one of my favorite films of like 2018 as a whole. I was just blown away by this, and it's easily the best, most well-written and like well voice acted in the universe. I'm just sad that the rest of them couldn't be as good as this one was. So there you have it. There's my ranking of all 15 or 16 if you include Constantine like I do, movies in the DC animated movie universe. Go ahead down below, place your ranking. What's your favorite? What's your least favorite? How do you feel about these films? I really enjoy some of them. I really dislike some of them. I think some of them are some movies I'm never going to watch again. Meanwhile, there's others that I would love to own. My top 5, I would have no qualms in owning Blu-rays of, right? It's a really fun time, and I really did enjoy this universe. I know I made a joke at the start talking about how I shouldn't watch any more franchises, but you know what? Some of them are good, and this is one of those that I did really have a great time watching. So with all that being said, thank you for watching this video. Go ahead, subscribe for more content like this. I got a lot of cool stuff coming out this month, and I hope that you all will stick around for that. Go ahead and leave a like. Follow my Twitter, my Anchor podcast, where I talk about some cool stuff, and anything else really. I just hope you have a great night, and I'll see you all in my next video.